You've seen him bicker with her. You've seen him dance his way into her heart. You've heard him cheer on her awkward attempt at the monkey bars. Now, witness Slater completely forget that Jesse exists, because it's back to Slater versus Zack for Kelly's attention. But what's Zack got to worry about? He's got Kelly on lock. Even Mr. Belding referred to her as Zack's girlfriend.
This one's for you, your sweet little girlfriend, Kelly.
But it seems that there might be some cause for concern, as Zack gives Kelly a ring, and she's suddenly backpedaling on the relationship status.
Zack, we're just dating. I'm not ready to go steady.
This is just a friendship ring, because friendship is the boat that happy people sail on.
You sound like a Hallmark card.
No, he sounds like a Mr. Deeds card.
Do you remember when we went to the zoo and that time we drank all the beers? Beers, oh yeah.
Kelly is won over by the gesture and...
Morning, Morris.
Morning, my love. Whoa.
Zack is able to calm himself down so as to get to driver's ed class and, gosh dang it, Screech. Why? With this being a driver's ed episode, the poster we saw at the start finally sorta makes sense. A Capri is an old Ford car. Apparently Bayside High School has a contingent of students that are very enthusiastic about them. Now, when Mr. Tuttle isn't botching the basic tenets of capitalism, he can be seen making really strange comments to Jesse in driver's ed.
What's the speed limit on most freeways? You know this one, you know this one, you know this one.
55 miles per hour.
Excellent. I wish you were my child.
That's not okay to say. And I think Mr. Tuttle forgets which vehicle he's teaching.
Why do you put your left arm straight out the window?
That's easy. To dry your nails.
And oh no, it's to make a left turn.
This scene does establish a few things for the episode. 1. Kelly loves the fact that Slater can drive. 2. Mr. Tuttle loves busting all of Zack's balls. And 3. Screech once backed his car out of his dad's garage.
I hope he has dork insurance.
He does! Dork insurance is provided by Liberty Mutual, because F those guys and their stupid emu commercials. Later at the Max, Zack wards off guys by flashing Kelly's bling.
Zack, we are not going steady. This is just a friendship ring.
Oh, but when Zack gets some attention, the gang is pretty bummed because none of them can afford a car. Except Slater, he just bought one. Now wait a second, Zack just entered the Max. Whose drink was he chugging? AC invites everyone over to his garage, and the group leaves without paying for their drinks. They're saving the Max 1 week, then burying it in debt the next. But maybe that's why Slater is flush with cash. He's been saving the money he doesn't spend on burgers. But then again, didn't he pledge his savings last episode to save the Max? And it was only $100? Where did he really get the money to buy a car? Over in the Slater family garage, boom! The car is a piece of crap! And if it seems like that boom mic is kind of floating there, it's because part of the set is blocking the top of the shot. Notwithstanding the poor shot composition, Zack isn't heartbroken.
Well, it's everything I hoped it would be. And more.
The farts was that? I don't know of any car slogans that say "and more," but I think Zack was tasked with imitating the old Toyota commercials. Slater isn't fazed by Zack's critique, and the crew spend the afternoon classing the car up. And apparently Zack just sits and watches the entire thing happen. Zack's not worried. Slater can't even drive yet.
I turn 16 next week.
Boom, Zack! Take another L! Zack uses this fun timeout to explain that he will make sure that Slater fails driver's ed. And I will use this timeout to show that the camera angle no longer includes the odd obstruction from earlier, but now shows the top of the garage set. I also want to point out the use of 2 flags from the state of Arizona. Is that where the Slaters are from originally? What's with the flags? Prior to the next class, Zack riles Mr. Tuttle up by saying that Slater is boasting about being a better driver's ed teacher. Then Zack continues to biff that wink. And I'm sorry, Jack Angeles, but a riled Mr. Tuttle is very fun to watch. In class? Hold up!
Who's that dude?
And who's that girl? I don't recall seeing either of them in the earlier driver's ed scene. And in this earlier scene, look at the clothes worn by the 2 extras. They are almost wearing the same thing in the later scene. Even Mr. Tuttle is affected. Earlier, he sported that terrible tie with a soft blue shirt, but now it's white with that same tie. That's weird, right? Anyway, in class, Mr. Tuttle introduces the practice car.
Ah, the Mirthmobile.
Mr. Tuttle, trying to get Slater to screw up, concocts a nasty, real-to-life course for AC to maneuver. It blows up in Zack's face.
How was that, Mr. Tuttle?
Great. You know, I could use a teaching assistant next semester.
So Slater is qualified to teach the class. But getting back to Zack's face... No, not yet. I mean, he took another beat down, but I wanted to literally get back to his face. Seeing Slater succeed, Zack ends up in a dream sequence. But the pink fluffs over Zack's face for a split second well before the dream sequence is supposed to start. In the dream sequence, Kelly is just friggin' loving being in Slater's car at the drive-in. She is kiss happy, and can you blame her? Look at that guy! Seeing Kelly at a drive-in reminds me of this past scene.
Give love a chance.
Oh, I agree. Why don't we go to the drive-in and give it a chance?
Oh, I'm afraid I'll fall off your bicycle.
Not as fun as you thought biking would be with Screech. Roll it! But Zack has one more trick up his sleeve. He pays Slater $20 for an after-school lesson. He then asks Screech to bust out that classic Mr. Tuttle impression for Mr. Belding, and Screech is right for looking first in Mr. Belding's pooping stall. Fake Mr. Tuttle uses Zack's new black Dynatech 8000X to ask Mr. Belding to find the driver's ed cart and get the keys.
Why can't you do it?
Why can't I do it? I'm shaving my body hair, so I'll swim faster.
Oh.
Gosh dang. Screech is then charged with stalling for several minutes so that Zack can get the Mirthmobile into the hall. Slater hops in and gives Kelly a ride at volleyball practice, but then they crash and ultimately flee the scene before Belding can catch them. This scheme is very confusing. A casual watch would have you believe that Zack messed with the cart, evidenced by the herky-jerky handling. Knowing of the sabotage, Zack would understandably freak out with his girlfriend getting in the supposedly booby-trapped car. The crash feels inevitable. With Screech keeping Mr. Belding in his office, it makes sense that the crash would happen outside the principal's door so that Slater would be easily caught. It's Zack's fault that Kelly hit her head. Or is it? A different viewing shows that Zack is just bad at driving. Like, really, really bad. If the cart is fine, why the crash? Well, Slater is gawking at Zack's overacting. Zack doesn't want Kelly to get caught by Mr. Belding, who could come out of his office at any second, so Zack freaks, and AC stares. Then AC crashes into a bank of lockers we've never seen before. Slater didn't look where he was going, and it's his fault Kelly hit her head. So that plan didn't work. Mr. Belding accuses Mr. Tuttle of being irresponsible with the Mirthmobile, and Mr. Tuttle gets all sensitive. I'm glad we get this scene, as Mr. Tuttle hasn't been utilized well this episode with the kids. But bickering with Mr. Belding as they argue over who is more qualified to be principal? Excellent television.
Whatever you say, Mr. Balding.
Ooh, this is a second episode in a row where a balding joke is used.
Do you think we're doing the right thing?
Hey,
Is Belding balding?
Sorry, Dennis Haskins, but at least you still get to lord over that Mr. Tuttle. Mr. Belding hops on the PA system and demands that the person responsible for the crash come to his office.
You have until noon tomorrow to confess, or else.
And then things get confusing again. Kelly fesses up that she was in the car, and Zack apologizes for the fact that she got hurt.
It wasn't your fault, Zack.
It wasn't?
No, it wasn't. Unless you did do something to the car to make it crash. Now I don't know what to believe. Zack puts the blame on Slater and leaves AC wondering why Belding was still in his office that late in the afternoon so as to be able to catch them so fast. And of course Screech shows up to blab Zack's plan. Going back to Zack, we haven't seen this angle before. Based on the crash, shouldn't there be lockers behind him? All I see is a shot of the audience. New camera angles notwithstanding, Jesse and Kelly cook up a way to get back at Zack. At the Max, Kelly shows up and... You know what? I can't tell if this episode is poorly written or perfectly written to encapsulate the life of young teens. I'm going to harp on it again, but more must be said. Zack's plan was stupid. High schools are large. What are the odds that Mr. Belding would have seen Slater if the crash hadn't happened? It seems like Zack got lucky. But if the crash was luck and not due to Zack's sabotage, then the writing is amazing, as it shows how chaotic life can be. Best laid plans and all that. But we are given hints that Zack did sabotage that cart. So the crash was inevitable? If so, why make a point of showing Slater distracted and looking behind him? And in the Max, Kelly pretends she has amnesia and that she doesn't remember Zack.
Do you remember me?
Well, yeah, you're Tom Cruise, the coolest guy at school.
She would say that. The girl was once head over heels for Screech. As part of her amnesia, Kelly pretends to believe that Slater is her real boyfriend. This is so shocking, the boom operator gives us the biggest boom mistake to date. And here's Zack's reaction.
It was my fault. I tricked Slater into driving the car. I'm gonna tell Belding everything, then we're gonna get you the best doctor money can buy.
If Zack is such a conniving sociopath, why did he confess? Why not continue to feign innocence, yet still offer to help Kelly get help? Is this bad writing? Or is this an instance where emotion clouds the young sociopath's intuition and he behaves like an impulsive teen? Does it make me a creep wishing that Zack's sociopathic arc were more clearly defined? That's not the point. The cart plan and the Max flub may or may not have been good writing. I don't know. So everyone knows Zack sucks. He ain't worried though.
Belding will give everyone one last chance to confess. No one will. Then he'll say he's very disappointed in us, and since he doesn't know who's guilty, he can't punish them. Then he'll leave.
Mr. Tuttle and Mr. Belding spend some more quality time together. And then Belding announces that everyone fails.
Do I still get paid? Confess! Somebody confess!
Our golden girl agrees to be the sacrificial lamb. But then Slater steps up like the 16-and-a-week-year-old man he is. As AC is marched off, Zack finally does the right thing.
I was jealous that Slater was gonna get his license before me, so I set him up to get kicked out of driver's ed.
Wow, good plan.
Well, with the writer giving himself a pat on the back through Tuttle's line, we now know it was all just bad writing. AC gets 2 weeks of detention. Zack fails the class. Kelly still wants to be Zack's girlfriend. And boom! Zack hasn't learned one effing thing. The episode is certainly fun on plot. The car transformation is great. The Belding-Tuttle dynamic is great. And we get some of that classic Zack and Slater beef. But does the conflict make sense when AC is going out with Jesse and Zack with Kelly? And speaking of Jesse, she barely has anything to do in this episode besides call out Slater's machismo. And what was Lisa? She was given far too little to do. So, fun on plot, but very, very odd as far as character development goes.
Whatever you say, Mr. Balding.